Strawberries are lovely plants, but they do have a way of punishing rush decisions. Quite often, the trouble starts before the first plant ever goes in the ground. A grower picks a system that does not really suit the space, the harvest goal, or the amount of work they can keep up with. If you want one generous flush for jam, freezing, or a short you-pick window, June-bearing plants in a matted row can still be a very sensible choice. But if what you want is cleaner fruit, easier picking, fewer weeds in the row, and a longer harvest from a smaller footprint, a raised bed hill system with mulch and drip is usually the kinder arrangement. So before we talk about feeding or varieties, let us begin with the real question. What sort of strawberry patch are we trying to build? Once you have chosen the system, the site begins telling you what sort of crop you are likely to get. Strawberries like full sun, moving air, and soil that can shed excess water without becoming a swamp after rain. On a small property, it is very tempting to use whatever patch happens to be open. But low spots collect cold air, hold water, and turn spring bloom into an easy target for frost. This is one of those moments where efficiency really means being willing to walk away from a bad spot. If tomatoes, potatoes, peppers, eggplant, or even raspberries have been there recently, the disease risk climbs. So take the soil test early, correct the pH before planting, clear perennial weeds before the bed exists, and make sure the irrigation is ready before a single crown touches the soil. In truth, the best strawberry growers usually begin the season long before it looks like anything is happening at all. Planting seems straightforward, though this is exactly where a great deal of future yield quietly slips away. In a June-bearing matted row, plants are often set about 1.5 to 2 feet apart in rows 3 to 4 feet apart, then allowed to fill in with runners until the row reaches the proper width. In a hill system, the spacing is tighter, and the intention is different. You keep the mother plants, remove the runners, and let raised beds, mulch, and drip irrigation do a good deal of the tidying for you. Whatever system you choose, the crown must sit at the proper depth. Too low, and it may rot. Too high, and the roots can dry out. The middle of the crown wants to sit right at the soil line, with the roots hanging naturally downward, rather than bent into a tight little J. It is a small, almost gentle detail, but it very often decides whether a strawberry bed settles in happily or struggles from the very start. Once the plants are in, the work becomes less about planting and more about guiding. This is the stage where many people get a little excited, see the first blossoms, and want to let the patch race ahead. Usually, it is better to be patient. With June-bearing strawberries, the first year is often about building the patch, so blossoms are removed and runners are encouraged until the row fills in to the proper width. With hill systems and day-neutral types, the logic is usually reversed. Early flowers may be removed for a short while to help the plants settle in, and runners are cut so the mother plants keep their strength for fruit, rather than turning the whole bed into a tangled nursery. Meanwhile, weeds need watching, because strawberries are shallow-rooted and not terribly competitive. Water matters here too, perhaps more than many people expect. Their roots sit close to the surface, so uneven watering shows up rather quickly in stress, slower growth, and smaller berries later on. Once bloom begins, the crop becomes noticeably more delicate. The earliest flowers often go on to make the biggest berries, and a single poor frost can take them away. So this is the moment to keep a close eye on the forecast and protect the blossoms with row covers, blankets, or whatever your system can sensibly support. Water still matters more here than many feeding plans would have you believe. Extension advice is fairly consistent on this point. Growers often worry too much about fertilizer and not nearly enough about irrigation, drainage, and general soil condition. Strawberries do need feeding, of course, but they are not especially grateful for overfeeding. Too much nitrogen can give you a lot of leafy growth when what you truly want is steady fruit development and a healthy, balanced canopy. Pollination matters as well. When berries come out misshapen, they are often telling you a little story about stress at bloom, whether from frost, weak pollinator activity, or some other interruption. Harvest is the part everyone imagines, And it is also the moment when all your earlier decisions become visible. A beautiful patch can still lose quality very quickly if the berries are picked too slowly, stacked too deeply, or left sitting warm in the sun. In hot weather, strawberries often need picking quite frequently, sometimes every other day. Fully red fruit will usually give you the best flavor, though if rain is on the way or shelf life matters, picking just a touch earlier can be sensible. Use shallow containers, handle the berries gently, leave the caps on if you want them to hold a bit longer, and cool them as soon as you can. It sounds simple, perhaps even obvious, but this is where the best produce often separates itself from the merely adequate. Good strawberry growing is not only about raising berries well, it is also about moving ripe fruit through the property with a steady, careful hand. The final decision in the cycle comes after harvest. If you are growing mature June bearers in a matted row, renovation begins almost at once. That may mean narrowing the rows, cleaning away older growth, feeding at the proper time, irrigating well, and helping the patch set strong buds for the following year. But that ending does not belong to every system. Planting year June bearers are not renovated, and day neutral or annual hill systems are often carried only a short while or replanted quite deliberately. So the right ending depends on the choice you made at the beginning. And perhaps that is the real lesson in all of this. Growing fine strawberries on a small property is not about finding one clever trick. It is about making a series of calm, timely decisions and caring for the crop from the first patch of prepared ground to the last good picking.